Hello, Namaskar, and a very good afternoon to all the viewers watching our sessions out there. This is Simran Singh and you are watching this particular live telecast on eVidya channel number 12. Besides, we have so many different mediums through which you all can connect with us. You can participate in our live interactive sessions. And one of the other mediums is our YouTube channel, as you all are well versed with. It is ncertofficial. So this is the time for our very special program, that is Teaching Learning Interventions for Inclusive Classroom, where we try to raise awareness about inclusive classroom setup. So you must be willing to know what are we going to discuss in today's segment. It is all about economics from the book Introductory Macroeconomics for class 12th students. Viewers from any other classes, if you have connected with us, you have any of the queries, then feel free to reach out to us at our different mediums. So the topic of discussion for the day would be chapter number 5, Government Budget and the Economy. And providing us more guidance and insights into today's conversation, we have with us our guests in the studio. So allow me to introduce you with the guest of the session. Here we are joined by Ms. Kriti Dagar ma'am. Namaskar ma'am, good afternoon.
Namaste.
We welcome you in the conversation. Ma'am is currently serving as an assistant professor of economics at Manav Rachna University. And besides me, the screen is being shared by our sign language interpreter, Mr. Nirbhay Kumar Mal. Namaskar. A very warm welcome to you as well, and Nirbhay sir will be interpreting the entire session through sign language so you can understand and comprehend it better. In case if you have any queries, any feedback or messages to be shared, then here is a contact number that is flashing on your screens. So feel free to give us a call at 8800440559. Besides, a specific mail ID for class 12th students is again flashing on your screens. Kindly note down, it is dth.class12@ciet.nic.in. So let's begin this special segment of inclusive education for all of you on government budget and the economy. So ma'am, going by the title, I think the topic seems to be interesting for all the students. So just a brief of what are we going to discuss today, and then you may proceed.
Absolutely. So hello and welcome all of you. The topic that we will be discussing today is government budget and economy. Since it's a very theoretical topic, we'll go by a storytelling and case study method so that all of us have a little interest in the topic and we can go ahead with how the topic proceeds.
Sure. We may continue.
So the topic that we'll be doing today is government budget and economy. Just to give a brief layout of what we'll be going through, first we will discuss the concept and importance of government budget. Then we will go on to the expenditure and revenue difference with respect to the types and the objectives. Thirdly, we will move on to the impact of budget. And fourthly, we will look at some of the current developments. To begin with, there are some new terms that we learn in this lesson. So the first is mixed economy. So what do we mean by mixed economy is when we have private players and public enterprises both coexisting in the economy. The second thing is government budget, the term itself that the chapter begins with. So government budget is something like we all have a piggy bank, something that we put our money in. All of us, keep our funds into this big piggy bank. The government also has a big budget where it accumulates or keeps all of its funds. The third is deficit or surplus. Both of these are opposite terms. So a deficit will be there when what we are spending is more than what we are earning. And surplus will be there when what we are earning is more than what we are spending. So here when I say what we are spending and earning, I mean what the government is spending and earning. The fourth term is public goods. And this is a very important term because when we are looking at government, we are looking at how the government is using these goods that are in the economy. So आपने देखा होगा street lights या roads हैं या आपके public parks हैं, they are all owned by the government. So these are public property or public goods. The fifth term is fiscal policy. So fiscal policy, what you can see in the image that we see down there. So what the government does is it collects money. Government कहीं से पैसा नहीं कमा रही है, हम उनको टैक्स की फॉर्म में पैसा देते हैं और वो वही पैसा इकोनॉमी में एक्सपेंडिचर के लिए लगाती है. The last term is debt. Debt is nothing but in simple terms the loan that we are taking. So if we are borrowing money from the bank, we are also depositing money into the bank. So it's a circle that what we are depositing gets further lended to people. So we'll know the importance of these terms as we progress in the lesson. So the first thing, government budget. What do we mean by budget? It's basically a statement of the estimates of government's expected receipts and expenditure during a financial year. So पूरे साल में गवर्नमेंट ने क्या सोचा कि वो कितना खर्च करे और कितना कमाए for the benefit of the economy. So receipts can be your direct tax collections or your indirect tax collections, and expenditures can be the expenditure or the money the government is spending to build roads, to give subsidies. For example, जैसे farmers को एक loan waiver off दिया government ने. Next we come on to the structure of the government budget, which can be understood in terms of the receipts and the expenditure. So if you see this chart, we have the government budget, which is divided into the budget receipts and the budget expenditure. Further on, the budget receipts are divided into revenue receipts and capital receipts. And similarly, expenditure को भी हम revenue expenditure और capital expenditure में divide करते हैं. Then जब आप revenue जो आप कमा रहे हैं, आप उसका division देखते हैं, government कैसे पैसे कमाएगी, या तो उसको tax के through revenue मिलेगा या उसको non tax के through revenue मिलेगा. Tax में भी आपका direct taxes होते हैं और indirect taxes होते हैं. Similarly, when you go on to capital receipts, you have borrowings जो government ने करी हैं, कोई disinvestment, that means कहीं foreign government, foreign country में investment करी है, उसका return क्या आ रहा है, या किसी foreign country को loan दिया है, recovery of loan, उसका पैसा आपको government को वापस मिल रहा है. So this chart divides the receipts that we just discussed into revenue receipts and capital receipts. उसके क्या क्या components हैं. So आपके direct tax में आ जाएगा आपका income tax, corporate tax, estate tax, gift tax. Similarly आपका indirect tax में आ जाएगा sales tax, excise duty, और non tax में क्या आ जाएगा आपका profit and dividends, fees and fines, interest receipts. Similarly, when you look at capital receipts, you will have recovery of loans, disinvestments, borrowing, provident funds. In a similar manner, you have expenditure, which is divided into revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. So revenue expenditure क्या होता है, जो ना तो कोई आपकी asset create कर रहा है, ना आपकी liability, मतलब जो आपका payment है वो reduce कर रहा है. So इसमें included होएगा payment of salaries and pensions, defense services, education, and capital expenditure में क्या include होगा, जो expenditure आपके asset क्रिएट करता है या लाइबिलिटी कम करता है. सो इन्वेस्टमेंट इन शेयर्स, रीपेमेंट ऑफ लोन्स, कंस्ट्रक्शन ऑफ रोड्स, ब्रिजेस, एक्सेट्रा.
So ma'am, as we are discussing on this important concept, not only in terms of academics, but also when we are living, right?
Exactly.
Budget is very important, not only for the government, but for the individual as well. So understanding more about budget, how can it be comprehended in an inclusive classroom setup?
Very good question, because you know, these terms are very difficult to understand. So I'll take a simple simulation activity. So for example, you have to explain it in an inclusive classroom. What you would do is, आप उनको ये बताइए कि एक स्कूल जो है वो एक इकोनॉमी है, और जो स्कूल में क्लासरूम्स हैं वो आपके डिफरेंट कंट्रीज़ हैं या स्टेट्स हैं. जो वहाँ की प्रिंसिपल है वो आपकी इकोनॉमी की हेड है, और जो टीचर्स हैं वो कंट्री के हेड या स्टेट के हेड हैं, बिकॉज हर क्लासरूम की एक टीचर होगी. सो एक स्कूल में आपके क्या एक्सपेंसेस होते हैं, आपको टीचिंग स्टाफ को सैलरीज देनी होती है, आपको क्लीनर्स को सैलरी देनी होती है, आपको बच्चों के सपोर्ट के लिए डेस्क्स रखने होते हैं, बुक्स रखनी होती हैं. Then you have to look at how school buildings are made, electricity bills. So everything has like an expenditure. And where is the school getting money from? There are two ways. One, you are getting some government funding. Two, the students are also paying some form of fees. So that is the receipts that the school is getting. Just like the government gets receipts in form of its tax, the school is also getting receipts in form of the government aid and the fees. And expenditure would be in terms of what is the heads that I just mentioned. So अगर किसी year में जो उसको government से fund आया वो उसका expenditure से ज़्यादा हुआ, so it will be in a surplus situation. On the other hand, if the expenditure is more than what the government is getting or the school is getting, then it will be in a deficit situation. So this is how you understand the concept of budget, and we will use this as a base for further looking at things. We also can show a small video for students to better understand the concept of budget.
More items on your to-do list than hours in the day? If you're in college, you know exactly what we're talking about. But there's one thing you should never be too busy to do, and that is taking time to make a budget. A budget is a financial plan that will help you make smart spending choices today while preparing for tomorrow. Budgeting will help you achieve your goals and prepare you for unexpected bumps in the road. So what goes into making a budget? First, you'll need to track your income and expenses for a particular period of time, such as a month. You can use pen and paper, a spreadsheet, or a budgeting app. After that, making your budget comes down to a simple equation: what you earn minus what you spend. To determine your income, include items such as wages earned at work, allowances from family, and student financial aid such as grants or scholarships. To determine your expenses, include items such as tuition, books, rent, credit card payments, and car payments. Then simply subtract your expenses from your income. Are your earnings greater than your spending? If so, you could choose to invest, buy a new cell phone, or simply save for a rainy day. But what if you spent more than you earned? If that's the case, it's time to cut back on your expenses and balance your budget. You may also need to find a way to increase your income. Remember, everyone's budget is unique and it will fluctuate from month to month. So use a budget and be mindful of your daily expenses. That way you can make sure you're spending your money on things that really matter to you. When you budget, you decide where your money goes instead of wondering where it all went. And there you have it, the basics of a budget. Now it's time to create your own. Go to studentaid.gov/budget to get started.
तो आपने देखा कि कैसे बजट बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट है, ना सिर्फ एक गवर्नमेंट पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से बट इंडिविजुअल के लिए भी. और हम जाने अनजाने में रोज अपनी लाइफ में बजट बनाते ही हैं. आपको पॉकेट मनी मिलती है, आप डिसाइड करते हैं आप कैसे उसको खर्च करेंगे. सो आप बजट एक्चुअली रियल लाइफ में यूज कर ही रहे हैं. सो व्हाट इज द इम्पोर्टेंस दैट वी सी ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट बजट? अगर आप पॉलिसी स्ट्रक्चर में जाएं तो देर आर 2 आर्टिकल्स विच द गवर्नमेंट हैज लेड डाउन अकॉर्डिंग टू विच द बजट इज इम्पॉर्टेंट. द फर्स्ट इज आर्टिकल 112 जो कहता है कि सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट को एक एनुअल फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट प्रिपेयर करना होता है. सो जैसे हमने एग्जाम्पल देखा था, एक स्कूल को बनाना होता है, एक तुम्हारा टोटल खर्चा साल में क्या होगा. देन आर्टिकल 202 बोलता है कि स्टेट गवर्नमेंट को बनाना होगा एक स्टेट फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट, जस्ट लाइक हमारे क्लासरूम्स थे. सो एवरी टीचर विल से आई रिक्वायर 20 desks in this classroom. I require these many books for my students. So state has a different financial statement and the central government has a different financial statement. Then we come on to the concept of public goods. As I mentioned, it's very important to understand public goods because these are something which are not provided by the demand and supply in the economy. So there are 2 important terms related to public goods. One is non-rivalrous, which means कि एक इंसान की कंजम्पशन दूसरे इंसान का यूजेज उसके लिए कम नहीं करता है. एंड नॉन एक्सक्लूसिव, दैट मीन्स आप किसी को उसकी कंजम्पशन से हटा नहीं सकते हैं.
Again, ma'am, discussing more on the concept of public goods. How can this be made understood to children with special needs? कि public goods क्या होते हैं, किस तरह से उसे manage किया जा सकता है? Also the two categories that you have defined for us.
Exactly. So, public good for a student who is in an inclusive classroom, it's very important and it's very tricky to understand.
Yeah.
So, we'll just look at this table that I have made. So, what are public goods? As I mentioned, two terms, non-rival and non-excludable. तो आप अगर ये बीच वाला डायग्राम देख सकते हैं, गुड स्पेक्ट्रम वाला, मैंने 4 बॉक्सेस में डिवाइड किया है. ग्रीन बॉक्स जो है वो प्योर पब्लिक गुड्स बताता है, जो नॉन राइवल है, नॉन एक्सक्लूडेबल है. दैट मीन्स आपके जैसे आप रोड पे ट्रैवल कर रहे हैं या आप कोई स्ट्रीट लाइट के नीचे वॉक कर रहे हैं, आप किसी को बोल नहीं सकते कि आप उस स्ट्रीट लाइट के नीचे मत वॉक करिए या आप उस रोड पे मत ट्रैवल कीजिए. तो वो नॉन एक्सक्लूडेबल है और नॉन रिवल है. दैट मीन्स आप किसी को हटा नहीं सकते, आप किसी को ज़बरदस्ती एक्सक्लूड नहीं कर सकते. देन अगर हम ब्लू बॉक्स पे देखें, प्राइवेट गुड्स होते हैं राइवल और एक्सक्लूडेबल. सो दैट means that when I am using a private good, I can exclude a person from it. For example, अगर मैं एक स्विमिंग पूल में स्विमिंग करने जा रही हूँ, मुझे उसके लिए कुछ पेमेंट देनी पड़ती है. So I can exclude another person if that person does not have the capacity to pay for that swimming pool or to swim. Then we come on to free goods, which are basic goods that we need to survive. And there is no opportunity cost. मतलब आप उसके अलावा कुछ और कंज्यूम नहीं कर सकते. So free good will be your clean air or water. They are absolutely free. And then we come on to quasi public goods, which are non-rival or non-excludable. So they are not both rival and excludable. आप कई चीज़ें होती हैं गवर्नमेंट जो प्रोवाइड करती है जिसमें आप लोगों को एक्सक्लूड कर सकते हैं. जस्ट लाइक वी हैव द कंसेप्ट ऑफ रोड. So if there is a toll on the road and one person is not able to pay the toll, so he may take another route. So in that case, the toll road becomes a quasi-public good. Similarly, when we looked at the example of schools, when we say, there is a classroom, so if there are desks kept in the classroom, everybody is sitting on that desk. It's something that the school is providing to everybody on an equal basis. So that means these are public goods. You cannot tell any student आप यहाँ मत बैठिए, आप इस डेस्क पे मत बैठिए. मगर अगर एक ऐसी चीज़ है जिसमें you are saying that the well performing students will sit in the front desk and the students who are still learning or are new entrants to the class will sit in the middle desk. So that way you are dividing. In that case, it becomes a quasi public good. I hope that makes the concept clear.
Of course.
Then we come on to the concept of the types of budget. So we have 3 types: a balanced budget, a surplus budget and a deficit budget. Balanced budget matlab what I am spending is what I am receiving. Your total receipts are equal to your total expenditure. A surplus budget will be a case जब मेरा income जो मेरे को receive हो रहा है वो ज़्यादा है मेरे expenditure से. और डेफिसिट बजट होगा जब मेरा रिसीट्स आर लेस देन माय टोटल एक्सपेंडिचर. अ graphical representation of the same is given in the slide. So we have a deficit budget when you're earning more than what you are spending, when your expenses are more than what you're earning. Balance will be when both are equal, and a surplus will be when your earnings are less than what you're spending. Then how do we measure this budget? जब हम revenue deficit की बात करते हैं, deficit का मतलब again what we are spending is more and what we are receiving is less. So we will subtract what we are spending from what we are receiving. On the other hand, fiscal deficit will look at your total expenditure minus your total receipts. So that means आपके fiscal deficit में revenue deficit कहीं ना कहीं included होता है. एंड इस वे में फिस्कल डेफिसिट बताता है कि फाइनेंशियल हेल्थ हमारे पब्लिक सेक्टर की क्या है या स्टेबिलिटी इकोनॉमी की कितनी है. सो व्हेन वी कम ऑन टू दिस डिफरेंस बिटवीन योर fiscal deficit and revenue deficit, we also need to understand two important terms which are taxes and transfer payments. Taxes क्या होते हैं हमारे मैंडेटरी पेमेंट्स जो एक इंडिविजुअल से कलेक्ट करते हैं कॉर्पोरेशंस या फिर गवर्नमेंट को हम पे करते हैं बिकॉज वी आर लिविंग इन एन इकोनॉमी. एंड ट्रांसफर पेमेंट्स क्या होते हैं, जो पेमेंट्स किसी इंडिविजुअल को या किसी इंस्टीट्यूशन को गवर्नमेंट देती है टू सपोर्ट देम इन देयर डेली लाइफ, टू असिस्ट देम. सो एग्जाम्पल्स इसके क्या होंगे, आपके ओल्ड एज पेंशंस, चाइल्ड बेनिफिट्स, unemployment benefits and so on.
So let's make this concept more clear for the inclusive classroom. We still have around 7 to 8 minutes on the conversation. I'll request you to be precise.
Okay. So basically what we understand by this difference is when we look at taxes and transfer payments, what we find is that there's a very slight difference. Again, we go back to our simulation activity. When we looked at the classrooms, you have teachers who are managing these students. So आप उस केस में टैक्सेस और ट्रांसफर पेमेंट्स को कैसे डिफरेंशिएट करेंगे. एक टीचर को अपने वर्क लाइफ में she gets some benefits from the school which is in terms of your children benefits. So she gets benefits for her own children. For example, she may get sick leave for her child. She may get some tuition assistance for her own child. So that is a form of transfer payment that the school is giving. But she is also paying taxes on the salary that she is earning. So she is, on one hand, she is paying to the government, but she is also earning in terms of a transfer. Now we'll quickly go on to the objectives of the government budget. There are 6 objectives. So first is it helps in the reallocation of resources. So from a poor person to from a rich person to a poor person. That means it divides the income in such a way that there's a fair income distribution. And in India, we follow a progressive tax structure. That means the higher you earn, the higher tax you pay. The second is reducing inequalities of income and wealth. So basically, these public goods that the government is utilizing, they actually promote social welfare. And private goods, on the other hand, are for profit maximization. So government is aiming to balance the goals of profit maximization and social welfare. The third is economic stability. That means government is aiming that there will be no inflation. That is, aggregate demand हमारी aggregate supply से ज़्यादा नहीं होगी और aggregate demand हमारी aggregate supply से कम भी नहीं होगी. So उस चीज़ के लिए labor intensive technology या ऐसी चीजें प्रमोट करती है जिस केस में अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट नहीं होती है. द नेक्स्ट इज मैनेजमेंट ऑफ पब्लिक एंटरप्राइजेस. सो गवर्नमेंट हेल्प्स टू मैनेज दीज थ्रू इट्स बजटरी पॉलिसीज. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, यू हैव द रेलवेज. सो गवर्नमेंट ensures that the expenditure and revenue of these public enterprises is managed. The next is economic growth, wherein the savings and investments are balanced again by the use of budgetary policies. And the last is reducing regional disparities. That means it provides people with subsidies to equalize the resources amongst the different regions. Lastly, we come on to the impacts of budget. So total impact हमारा क्या होता है? Impact ये होता है कि हम बैलेंस करते हैं रेवेन्यू और एक्सपेंडिचर के बीच में, एलोकेशन ऑफ रिसोर्सेज बेटर होता है और प्लानिंग और इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ सोशल वेलफेयर प्रोग्राम्स बहुत इफेक्टिव और एफिशिएंट होता है.
So ma'am, are there any social welfare programs that are meant for our students as well? If yes, then please throw highlights on that.
Okay, so social welfare programs, especially when we look at our daily life and even in schools. So if you look at the midday meal program that schools are giving to students as a means of promoting their health and their overall turnover, so that is something which is there. Even Skill India और Digital India जो हमारी गवर्नमेंट ने आजकल बहुत एम्फोसिस डाला है उन स्कीम्स पे. So these are for the promotion of the social benefit of society. So in this respects, the current developments that we see are in two terms. One is the fiscal policy जो गवर्नमेंट यूज कर रही है to control the inflation and deflation in the economy. And ये फिजिकल पॉलिसी गवर्नमेंट यूज करती है अपने डिस्क्रिशन पे, तो हम इसको डिस्क्रिशनरी फिजिकल पॉलिसी भी बोलते हैं. दैट मीन्स अगर इन्फ्लेशन होती है तो गवर्नमेंट डिक्रीज करती है अपनी स्पेंडिंग और टैक्स बढ़ा देती है, और अगर डिफ्लेशन होती है तो गवर्नमेंट अपनी स्पेंडिंग इंक्रीज करती है और टैक्स कम कर देती है. The another concept that we have is the goods and service tax, which is implemented by the government on the goods and services that are sold for domestic consumption. It's a kind of indirect tax and a value added tax on the goods that we are consuming. So that concludes the chapter. Just a last thing that we'll be requiring in this chapter is the current budget. When we look at the 2022-23 budget, we can see these two pie charts which show that कहाँ से हमारा पैसा आता है, receipts as compared to कहाँ हमारा पैसा जाता है. The current budget mentioned that almost 35% of the money that is coming from borrowings and other liabilities. That means what the government is taking from abroad. And it is also coming from corporation tax and income tax. Similarly, the largest contribution is going to defense services, and it's also going to centrally sponsored scheme. That means जो center के development के लिए help करते हैं. So I hope this makes it clear.
Of course, and it is pretty interesting to note the details that how money goes in, how it goes out, and where all it is spent by the governments and reserved for us. So thank you so much, ma'am, for being a part of this conversation and apprising our viewers about these minute yet necessary details. So very quickly, let's move to the keywords of our today's session. So here are 4 keywords that are flashing on your screens. The first one is public good, social welfare, balanced budget, discretionary fiscal policy. So as we have thoroughly understood the concept of a budget, the government, the economy, so I request you to share homework with our viewers.
Absolutely. So there are 4 homework questions that we may look at. The first is, why are public goods provided by the government? The second is, differentiate between revenue expenditure and capital expenditure. The third is, explain concept of GST, which is goods and service tax. And fourth is, how are taxes different from transfer payments?
So as we are also trying to make it more easy in an inclusive classroom setup for everyone, let's have a look at the homework modification as well.
So the homework modification will be, state true or false. First, public goods are rival and non-excludable. Private goods are non-rival and excludable. Pure public goods are non-rival and non-excludable. The second is, tick the correct choice. Education services are a revenue expenditure. Payment of interest is a capital expenditure. Investment in shares is a capital expenditure. And purchase of land and machinery is a revenue expenditure. So you can tick more than one of the options amongst these. The third is, encircle the goods and service tax amongst the following: income tax, tax on medicines, property tax and luxury car tax. Again, you can circle more than one of the choices. The last is, identify which is not a transfer payment. First, farm subsidies. Second, disability payments. Third, purchase of defense goods. And fourth, unemployment compensation.
And all our viewers can submit their entries and homework to us at this mail ID flashing on your screens. It is dth.class12@ciet.nic.in. Besides, we also have our homework submission format through which you will be sharing your entries or your answers. The first one says name of the student followed by your class. It is for class 12th. Then the school name and the address where you are living. Then the expert and the teacher name. And today in the conversation we have with us Ms. Kriti Dagar, who was guiding us more on today's concept, and the sign language interpreter is Mr. Nirbhay. Then followed by it we have the date of the session. It's 3rd of January 2023, and your photograph is completely optional, but if you share it, we'll be more than happy. So once again, a word of thanks to both our guests who have been a part of this conversation. Thank you, ma'am.
Most welcome.
And I would also like to thank our sign language interpreter who has made this session more conducive for all of you. Thank you, Nirbhay. So we also have a very special information for all our viewers. As you all know, it's 3rd of January 2023, and we have been expressing it to our viewers that today our Kala Utsav event has begun, and for the next 7 days, that is till 7th, it is going to be there to be live telecast from Regional Institute of Education Bhubaneswar, NCERT, and it is to be presented by the Department of School Education and Literacy, Ministry of Education, Government of India, to promote arts and education and also to highlight and showcase the artistic talent of our school students. So let's watch a few glimpses of Kala Utsav.
India is our land of diverse culture and glory. Let's showcase the art with the glimpses of its story.
We hear the sound of music, we dance to anklet bells. Paint a picture, make some toys rejoice.
Let's do solo acting, let's dance, let's sing and paint.
Some toys rejoice. Kala Utsav, Kala Utsav, Kala Utsav, Kala Utsav.
Children from every nook and corner will perform.
Oh, great!
We will have glimpses from each and every state.
We hear the sound of music, we dance to anklet bells. Paint a picture, make some toys rejoice. We hear the sound of music, we dance to anklet bells. Paint a picture, make some toys rejoice. Kala Utsav, Kala Utsav, Kala Utsav, Kala Utsav.
Kala Utsav, an initiative of the Department of School Education and Literacy, Ministry of Education, Government of India, announces Kala Utsav, organized by NCERT from 3rd to 7th January 2023 at Regional Institute of Education, Bhubaneswar. Kala Utsav.
So we are looking forward to your active participation and do encourage our students. Once again, I would like to thank Akriti Dagar ma'am for being a part of this conversation, and thanks to Nirbhay for interpreting the session for all of you. Now it's time to end this particular session, but stay connected to NCERT official, to eVidya channels, because we have a lot of sessions coming in for all of you. So we'll be right back at 2 p.m. with another session. Stay connected to NCERT official. Namaskar.